Happy Friday, everybody. I know, right? TGIF. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Brentwood. We're going to start today's meeting with an invocation by Dale Llewellyn, and then the pledge and four-way test will be led by David Carden.
Morning, everyone. Good to see everybody. Sorry, Linz. Oh, afternoon. Is it after? It is after. Excuse me. I stand corrected. On that note, let's pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the fact that you bless us in so many ways. And we especially thank you for the break in the heat and a little bit of rain. We pray that you'll continue to bless us with that. We ask you, Lord, that you would bless this club. Continue to guide us in the directions you'd have us to go, that we'll meet the challenges that are put before us. We use the leadership that's been so abundantly applied to the members of this club, and that we'll affect change where it needs to be and support Rotary International in our efforts for service, not only locally, but around the world. Thank you for the food that was provided. Bless it to strengthen us to serve you better. In Christ's name, amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Number one. Is it true? And the second, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, build goodwill and better friendships. And number four, will be beneficial to all concerned. We certainly hope so.
Now we'll ask our club secretary, Steve Hammers, to introduce our guests today.
All right, we've got several guests today. The first one is from Lynn McGill. Lynn, where'd you go sit down at? There you go. Lynn, would you like to introduce your guest?
Yes, my guest today is my driver, home health care worker, and permanent, my wife Linda, and taking care of me.
Welcome, Lynn. Next guest, we got some unusual names here. We've got Jay, introducing Jay.
I am introducing the other Jay Evans, and I am hashtag the real Jay Evans. This is my cousin who moved up from Florida last year. We're so happy to have him in this area. He works for the Nashville Sounds and has recently been so kind to recruit his general manager to come and speak to all of us in a couple of weeks, or in a few weeks. So if you do open up the paper and you see Jay Evans has been arrested, look for the mugshot because it's him.
All right, we've got a Rotarian, Bob Rabner. He's from the Downtown Franklin Evening Club. Is that right? All right, well, welcome. We're glad to have you. Like say.
Thanks. I was here once before when Matt Largent was doing his talk. Become good friends with Betsy and Mike Kaplan and others around, and happy to be here living in Franklin, but also running for State House District 61. Early voting underway. I've been out here at the Brentwood Library. You may have seen my face around. So thanks for having me.
Welcome, Bob. We've got another visitor who's also a Brentwood Morning Rotarian, but I'll let Brian Gosling.
This is Brian Collins. He's our deputy fire chief. He was promoted up after Chief Windrow moved on to Nolansville, and Steve said he's a member of the Brentwood Morning Club.
Awesome. That's all the guests for today. Thank you. Oh, I didn't catch him at the beginning. We didn't have you listed. I'm sorry. Introduce your guest, please.
Yeah. This is my wife, Malia. She is the owner operator of a boutique specialty bakery here in Brentwood, and we're spending the Friday together.
Thank you. All right, I believe that's it. Thank you, Jane.
Great.
It's all yours.
Okay. Now we will have our Rotary Minute for today. So today's Rotary Minute is actually a quote from the guy who was responsible for forming Rotary back in 1905, who is Paul Harris. That's right. So Dick Bowers gave me this book last week, and it is really cool. It's called Honoring Our Past, The Words and Wisdom of Paul Harris. And it's full of quotes that are, I flipped through it, and it's just really interesting to me how relevant the quotes still are today. So today's quote from Paul Harris, he said this in 1945. I would like to think that the pioneering days of Rotary have only just begun. There are just as many new things to be done as ever there were. Kaleidoscopic changes are taking place, many of them without our will. Even to hang on to the fringe of this fast-changing world is about all most of us can do, right? Rotary must continue to pioneer or be left in the rear of progress. That's our Rotary Minute for today. So now we will have Happy Bucks with Sherry Koss.
I need a microphone. Don't want a microphone.
You don't need one for us. but you do.
Okay, oh, there's already some money in here. I'm gonna put some money in and say I'm happy for the rain. Woohoo. All right, anybody else? We've got crispy grass, for sure. Yep.
We're hanging out today because it's our 27th wedding anniversary. So I thought I'd wear my Eddie George jersey in honor of that.
Congratulations. All right, who else is happy? I see somebody that's happy.
I am happy. I'm putting $20 in. One, because I made it back from Colorado where I went to the Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, Joan Jett concert. I was not a Motley Crue fan going in. I am not a Motley Crue fan coming out. My hearing has just returned, and I think I'm starting to not see spots. The other $19 is I get to sit next to Julie Porter. And it's all the money I have.
Okay, who else? Need more money? More money. Beth, here I come. Hey.
Hi. I just got my daughter moved into her first apartment in Birmingham. So year 2 college, here we go.
Cool. Anybody else? Yay.
We just returned from a 2-week trip with our entire family together, 24 hours a day. It was delightful. And the last night we planned where we're going to go next. So that's a good sign. But I'm just so glad to be back in the States where I can get a good meal.
Welcome back. Who else? Anybody else? Going once, twice. No, we're done. We're done being happy. Okay.
Thank you, Sherry. Now we have a few announcements. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. I thought Patrick was happy. He just wants the money. Yeah, he just wants the money. Okay, so Larry Kane, would you like to talk about the golf tournament?
Yeah. But I have to have my hat on to talk about the golf tournament. So I'm here to ask for help now in 2 areas, one of which I didn't plan for. So I get the RSVPs every week from you guys online who sign up, those who sign up. And I keep that list and I bring that in and we order our food and we set our tables up based on that number. So this past week, I had 47 of you RSVP that you were coming with some guests involved in there. So we set up 56 tables, 56 chairs at 8 tables. A while ago, I checked, we had 62 people here. 46, 47, 52, 62. We're out of food. Poor Patrick back there is eating mashed potatoes and rolls. That's all we got left. There's no salad. It's gone. Please RSVP. It takes 3 clicks of your finger to RSVP. And if you don't know how, ask somebody who does it how to do it. And if you've got a guest coming, they count too. We have to feed the guest. So we're either going to stop feeding the guest if we got too many people, or as somebody suggested to me today, we'll just start asking at the first of the meeting, everybody that did not sign up, raise your hand. But I'm not going to do that. That would be a little ugly, so I'm not going to do that. But please help us out there. Seriously, we had 4 or 5 people who did not get anything to eat, and that kills me. So I'm asking please for your help on that. Golf tournament. Here we go. We're doing better. We're not where we want to be yet. We're at about 79% of our goal. These people honored this week, Jared Tanksley. Now watch out. You're going to hear that name a bunch over the next 3 weeks. Jared Tanksley, Skip Hebert, Michelle LaFlette, Larry Grissom, and Patrick Wright, all sold sponsorships this week. What did I say? Larry. Did I say Larry? I went to school with Larry Grissom. Steve Grissom. Mr. Wright's sale was $1,000 sale. So that was great. Well, thank you guys. We still have 34 members who've not contributed. Enough said. If you're one of those 34, be proud. I haven't done anything. Hot dang. All right. We've got 71 whole sponsors from last year that have not signed up. 71 from last year. Not new ones, not cold calls, not going down the street, knocking on doors, calling the guy you called last year or the girl you called last year. I've got the list up here. If anybody wants to see where, did I have a sale last year and don't know about it? I've got the list up here of everybody that had a sale last year that has not called it. So I'm not going to bring it up. I just got it if you want to come see it. So we need help. Today is the 29th. Our tournament's the 29th of next month, 31 days. There's a lot that goes on in the next 31 days and setting the tournament up. We'll be setting up the course and getting workers and all kind of things going on. But sales, the whole point of this tournament is to raise money for our foundation. Remember that. So if you got a sponsorship from last year, you hadn't got it in yet, get it in. If you can get a new one, get a new one. I've gotten several new ones recently, which is great. That's what we want. So help us out. Let's make it go. Thank you very much. And RSVP.
Okay, after that segment, which is called Lectures from Larry. Couple of other announcements. Early voting ends tomorrow. Please don't forget, it's right across the street at the Brentwood Library, ends tomorrow. And then also you may have seen well, I guess Dale might be the only person that saw this because we just discussed that most people don't read Reflections, but there is a save the date in Reflections for a club social. So we're going to have a party at my house on the evening of August 26th. Details will be forthcoming and there will be an RSVP involved. So it should be fun. It will be a members only social. Everybody will be allowed to bring a guest and it'll just be, food that I will not cook. You're welcome. And we'll have pinball machines and TVs will be on for football. We may have cornhole outside depending on the weather. We'll have beverages. It'll be fun. So, and then also this week, you should have received a form to join the End Polio Now Society. As everybody knows, we now have an active case of polio. So not only do we have, murder hornets and COVID and all that stuff, polio's back. And so Rotary's #1 priority, as everyone is aware, is to eradicate polio. So the End Polio Society involves $100 a year commitment, and it does count toward Paul Harris credit. So you have a form. If you would fill out that form, if you're willing to join, and return it either hard copy to the club and you can give it to me, or you could scan it and email it to me because I do need to turn those into the district. So please consider joining the End Polio Now Society. And that is it for our announcements. And we will ask our mayor, Ray Little, to introduce today's speaker. That's right.
All right. Our guest speaker today is Jay Evans, fellow club member, Rotarian since 2007. Many of you know Jay. But as with a lot of us in here, as club members, we don't always know the scope and breadth and width of what we do on a day-by-day basis in our calling. Jay's been city manager in Brentwood since 2013. Of course, he assists Kirk with day-to-day operations, but he provides oversight to the community relations, library, parks, water services. And he also is responsible for the development of the city's 6-year capital improvement program, and coordination of the city risk management, facilities maintenance program, and other special projects. And as you've heard me preach many times, our being fiscally strong is what keeps Brentwood very independent and one of the best municipal governments in the nation and world, and lets us have the standard and quality of life we do. So we appreciate Jay's work on that. He has 25 years of local government experience. He served as city manager in Leesburg, Florida, town manager of the town of Oakland, Florida, and concurrency manager of Osceola County, Florida. Jay's a graduate of Troy University and received his master's degree in public administration from the University of Central Florida. He is a graduate of Florida State University, certified public manager program, and is a member of the International City Management Association. Currently serves on the board of directors for the Tennessee City Management Association. He and his wife, Megan, have 3 children. His daughter, Morgan, is a senior at UTC. Son Parker is a sophomore at the United States Air Force Academy. And daughter Addison is a sophomore at Page High School. But I'm going to tell you more about Jay. Those are facts about Jay and very important facts about Jay. Jay loves his Lord. Jay fulfills his calling excellently. Jay loves his family. He loves the city of Brentwood. He does a really good job. When you're placed in positions of leadership, a lot of times you use many things to evaluate, because when you're in a position of leadership and the larger and more complex the organization, the more you are totally dependent on those who carry out certain functions, because you by no means can even know about, much less carry them out. There's many things I use to evaluate as a leader with someone I work with, but 2 very important ones are this. One, I look at what they do in the small things, because he is faithful in little things can be given greater things. I look at what they do day to day, their consistency, their excellence in day-to-day activities. And Jay excels in all of those. The second thing I always look at is, what do they do in a crisis? And Jay is calm, thoughtful, and handles crisis well. And I know just 3 crises that we faced as a city is COVID, just in the last 2 or 3 years, the loss of an officer in the line of duty, and then this week, the loss of a very beloved commissioner and a very important servant to the city of Brentwood. And serving with Jay, I watch him handle these things in a thoughtful, excellent, disciplined, and calm manner. And that gives me the utmost confidence in his abilities as assistant city manager and whatever the city needs. And I will share with you, we're blessed in Brentwood because we have many staff that are like that. But Jay is exemplary in those things. And so it's my pleasure and my honor to welcome our assistant city manager, Jay Evans.
Mayor, thank you for that introduction and those very kind words. Last part I certainly did not expect. I hope part of what you said is going to actually dovetail nicely into some of the things I'm going to share today. There's a lot of people here today, as Larry pointed out. And I'm gonna give you all loyalty points because, Madam President, I think truly they don't read reflections because they showed up and I'm the guest speaker. And I'm going to give you an update on the city of Brentwood. Now, many of you said to yourselves, that sounds like charts and graphs. I don't know if that's going to be the one for me. I might have some belly button lint to pick out today. But you did, and I thank you because I do want to bring what I think is an important message to you. I'm going to bring you an update on projects and things like that. And God bless you because I have 35 minutes on the clock. So I'm glad I brought enough material. I think we'll get through everything, but I've talked about some projects, but I really want to talk about something a little bit different. And it's about what makes our city government special, because truly it is special. And you may know a little bit why, but I'm here to tell you, you don't know all the reasons why. And I'm going to share it with you by giving you the perspective of an outsider, not as an insider. And to do that, I'm going to go back to 2012, when I was, as the mayor mentioned, I was the city manager of Leesburg, Florida, and I had 2.5 years left on my contract. I was doing fine there, had taken that community through the recession, but I was yearning for something new and something different. And honestly, I wanted to get out of Florida because I'd been there my whole life. I wanted less humidity. I wanted topography. I wanted a place with hills or mountains or somewhere. So I started looking around the country for just the geographic area I wanted to target. And I settled on North Carolina, Middle Tennessee, maybe a little bit of East Tennessee, the Denver, Colorado area, and then areas north up to Montana, Bozeman, Billings, places with some fantastic mountains and some great natural resources. And I stumbled upon this opportunity in Brentwood, Tennessee. And I had asked myself, where's Brentwood, Tennessee? And I looked and it's near Nashville. Hey, hon, my wife, this is near Danica. She has an identical twin sister who had moved to the area 2 years prior. So it looks like it's about 40 minutes away from her. She lives near Santa Fe. I said, okay, let me look deeper and see what it's all about. So I looked real quick. Oh, and by the way, I had said to my wife, I said, in doing this, I have two big requirements. Number one, I want to work for great people. Not that I didn't work for great people at the time, but that's a huge satisfaction part of your job, is when you work for people that you can believe in. I want to work for great people. And I want to go where the quality of life is good. Those were my two main criteria. And then I had other ideas about what I would like to have that local government have or do, but those were subordinate. And so seeing Brentwood, I saw this, hey, school system's great there. We were homeschooling our kids at the time in Florida. It was somewhat necessary, but Williamson County schools are great. The kids actually go to public schools. But what about the local government? And so it will. May have lost our connectivity. So I began to see what I call the secret sauce, the things that really set Brentwood apart and how Brentwood governs differently. Now, of course, you would expect me to say they've got to have a great leadership team. And that starts with the city commission. And they do. They had a great city manager, who was Mike Walker, who had been there 21 years. And he was passing the torch to Kirk Bednar, who had already been there 11 years. And so I went on and I kind of looked at that and I said, all right, let me go and look at their videos to see how does the city commission interact with their staff and the residents. And so I went to the website, went to the videos, and I'm watching the city commission meeting, and it just happened to be the tapestry. Yeah, the big C4 debate. And, in Brentwood style, people were coming unglued, but it was Brentwood style. And that's what I was able to observe, was there were residents who were concerned about what this thing was, but it was the way they interacted with the city commission and the way the city commission interacted with staff. I was able to see this on the video, and I'm like, I like these people. And so I clicked on another video, and I'll never forget, it started at the beginning, and it was at that time Mayor Paul Webb giving the invocation. And I took note that it was a rather evangelical sounding invocation. And I'm thinking to myself, they still do that. Wow. And I listened to his words. They touched me. They touched my heart. I absolutely loved what I was hearing, because before I'm anything else, I'm a child of God. And Brentwood still does this, though. And that told me a lot about the community's values and about this mayor's values. And I really liked what I said. And I called my wife over. I said, I think these are my people. I think these are my people. Let's learn more. And so I started digging deeper, and I dug deeper in the ways that the city manager knows to dig. The things I'm going to go look for. Go straight to the bond rating. Bond rating is a fantastic grade of the financial security of the community. And it talks also about a lot of the leadership and the policies and all those good things, and AAA rated. Knocked my socks off. Brentwood, Tennessee, what is up with this community? They're AAA rated. I didn't know anything about Brentwood. But I had been chasing bond ratings for the city of Leesburg, Florida for 8 years. And I've been to New York 3 times and given presentations to Mitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's. And then also to bond underwriters and to bond insurers, all trying to get the lowest interest rates possible for my community when we issue bonds. We're talking big money here. Well, in my community, as with many, we always had to have bond insurance because the bond holders want the peace of mind that there's a backstop. If the community is not able to pay, there's always the bond insurance that will kick in and that debt service will get paid. Brentwood doesn't have to have that because they've got the highest bond rating that there is. And I knew what it takes to get that. And that right there, I'm like, okay, this is fantastic. Well, what else? I could see in the budget document, they have a very conservative budget philosophy. That was apparent, and that's going to be apparent in the bond rating. But there are some things that are like cost containment strategies that some communities do 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but they don't really do all of them. But I have this kind of list in my head of the things I'd like to see. And I started checking off boxes as I started looking deeper. And this is the secret sauce. You got a healthcare plan. We are service providers. We employ employees. We don't make widgets. And one of your most expensive expenditures is your healthcare plan. Is it self-funded? Or what really is partially self-funded? Absolutely, yes, it is. Mike Walker had that put in place. And the city commission voted on it. Self-funded, the first $75,000 of any claim is paid for by the city of Brentwood, and then you have reinsurance that kicks in. Okay, that's saving money. Good job. Workers' comp, is that self-funded or partially self-funded? Check that box. Yes, it is. First $50,000 of a claim is covered by Brentwood, and then it's reinsurance. Okay. That health plan, there's a great way to save money in your health plan for your residents who are paying that tax dollar. And that's by not focusing on treatment, but focusing on prevention. And you can do that best by having an employer-provided health clinic that allows them to get annual health checkups, health risk assessments, where you can identify diabetes when they're pre-diabetic, not when they're already diabetic, and the treatment costs go into the tens of thousands for each individual. But you can do that with a clinic and check that box. Brentwood had one. Not only that, Brentwood had Care Here. Care Here was the same company that we were using in Leesburg, Florida, had them about 3 years. I would even have to change companies. All my records go in with weapons. Seems fortuitous. Okay, check that box. OPEB. There's not many people in the room, maybe a few, but OPEB, other post-employment benefits. When you make, as so many governments did, when you make promises to your employees for what is largely retiree healthcare, now those promises were made years ago. And as we've evolved as local governments, you make fewer and fewer of those promises to your newer employees, but your older employees, you still make certain retiree healthcare promises to them, and you need to be able to fund them. In 2004, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board said, you know what, local governments, you're not even accounting for this on your financial statements. You've all got to do it now. You got a few years to comply, but you've got to do it. And I was at the city of Leesburg, Florida, and we were not in a position to start funding that obligation, but of course you put it on your financial statements. And I read that in the very first year possible, Brentwood started fully funding its OPEB obligations, not just reporting on their financial statements, but fully funding it. So you get an actuarial report. It tells you how much money to kick in, and they started kicking it in from day one. And they not only have fully funded it, but sometimes overfunded it, because you know circumstances can change, your discount rate can change, your investment performance can change. So sometimes they overfund their OPEB obligations. Their pension has always been fully funded, the amount that they're supposed to put in every year. And for the last several years, we've been overfunding because, again, investment performance can change, a la right now, a la the Great Recession. When you see your investments tanking, you're glad to have some overfunding, which actually is the case we have now. We are overfunded in this time when all of our investment portfolios are going down. Okay. Capital projects cost a lot. That's the big expensive things, whether it's facilities, parks, equipment, whatever it is. How do they handle it? I'm looking deeper. And there were some things I had done in Leesburg that I thought were pretty cool, were really snazzy. Check that box. Brentwood's already doing it. So Brian, where are you? Goss? Okay. Brian, a tower truck. Now, what's a tower truck going to cost? 1.2, maybe a little bit more. Probably couldn't even get one right now. So $1.2 million for one piece of equipment. And we bought a fire truck recently and it's $900,000. You've got to be setting aside money for those big items when they come due. And Brentwood's been doing that for quite a while with an equipment replacement fund. Now, mind you, interestingly, most local governments don't do that. We've got a facilities maintenance fund. Same thing. When you want to re-roof City Hall or re-roof the library, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. We put a new chiller in the library this last year. That was over $300,000 right there. So do I go to the mayor and I say, Mayor, we're going to need to dip into reserves, or we need a little bit of a tax increase to pay for these big items because we didn't appropriately plan for it, or because we're standing on the shoulders of giants who came before us and prepared this stuff, we've got the money there to do these things with. I had an opportunity, this give you a little perspective, an opportunity to speak to the Governmental Accounting, GFOA, Governmental Finance Officer Association. It was a conference they were having in Nashville just before COVID. Finance director and I went there and we presented on the facilities maintenance fund and the equipment replacement fund. Now, we were in a room full of people they were a receptive audience. These were nerds getting it like us, right? But I couldn't believe, number one, they're like on the edge of their seats listening, and I've got spreadsheets up here galore. I'm showing them this stuff, and they were like, wow. And you're thinking, you don't do this. And some of those jurisdictions were much larger than the city of Brentwood. And I took away from that, okay, this is another one of those things that Brentwood does that's different. We govern differently. Our capital projects, most local governments, you have an operating budget, you got your capital budget, and you're budgeting the same revenues, only a chunk of them for the coming year for your capital. If you have a shortfall in your revenues because the world went to heck in a handbasket, you kind of got a problem because you got all those capital projects that may be in progress at the time, and yet you've got a revenue shortfall. You're gonna have to dip into reserves. Brentwood doesn't do that. Brentwood wears the belt and suspenders. And the money that we're spending on capital projects in any one year, if it's not bond financed, it's money that we've squirreled away in the capital projects fund from prior year's excess revenues. We're not spending this year's money. We're spending last year's excess money. How do you get excess money? Well, you budget your revenues low and you budget your expenditures high. And that delta that comes in is what you're squirreling away, and it becomes your capital money for the next year. Typically for us, that's $3 to $5 million. Lately, we've had some more coming in because internet sales taxes hit, and we had some good halls tax before it phased out. And so we've been able to do a little bit more. This is the secret sauce. And when you ask yourself, why is Brentwood different? You know, it's not just affluence that makes Brentwood different. Anybody can be affluent, but can you be a smart steward of your taxpayer resources and put all of these things in place in one jurisdiction? And that's why I look back at 2012 and say, I'm still excited about all those things because Brentwood still does them, and we do some more things now. Again, how did it happen? Because of several decades of good leaders at the city of Brentwood and good city managers who are willing to make tough decisions and put all this stuff in place and make this the great community that it is. So that's what I wanted to share with you about my perspective of the city of Brentwood. And that was the perspective of an outsider, because I saw all that and it blew my socks off. I threw out one resume because it was the hill I was willing to die on. And that was to go to the city of Brentwood as their assistant city manager. And I'm so glad that I did. It's been 9.5 years now. Okay. Now this is that checklist, checking all those items off. Okay, let's talk about some projects. I would be remiss if I didn't start off with the Miles Together Inclusive Playground, this fantastic project that the Rotary, certainly a leader in making this thing happen, $750,000 in fundraising commitment, and boy, has the Rotary delivered. And the 50th committee, our 50th anniversary committee from the anniversary in 2019, kicking in $85,000 to Miles Together. Well, let's show you a little bit of the outcome here. You've seen this. Actually, there's another presentation that has this image on it, and that was the rendering of what the playground was to look like. And Kimley Horn did this for us, very good design firm. And we have actually the parent company who built the police department headquarters doing construction. So these pictures were taken just yesterday. This playground is really coming along. And if you can picture, after grand opening, the kids, the families, everybody with the smiles on their faces, enjoying these amenities. That's a shot from one of the big slides. Had to climb all the way on top of it, try not to fall. That could have been one of those work comp claims. And so we had expected or hoped by now that we'd actually be having the grand opening, but supply chain issues and whatnot is pretty much every project that's out there has got things slowing down on it. We're thinking at the end of August or the beginning of September, we should be able to have the grand opening. So look for correspondence from Rotary on when that's going to be, and please come out and help us celebrate the grand opening of this project you guys have worked so hard on. Okay, another fun project. Actually, we're gonna do the park stuff first. Everybody likes parks and whatnot. So turf baseball fields at Crockett Park. If you got kids that are in athletic events, many of the parents have been asking us for years, why can't we get some turf fields? And the answer has always been, do you know how much those things cost? They are very, very expensive. But the Brentwood Baseball Club came to us and said, hey, we want to do this and we want to partner with you. We're actually bringing money to the table. Brentwood Baseball Incorporated said, we'll split the cost with you. We said, all right, now somebody's talking. I think we can do that. So we went and looked at the prices, about $900,000 to put two turf fields in. So we chose 2 fields at Crockett Park. That's these 2 fields shown in this aerial here. So they're on the west side, that's fourplex number 2. And it's those 2 fields. I'll call your attention to the field on the north part of it. So the upper one of those 2. Giving us a little trouble. Well, we've got Geosurfaces Incorporated installing the fields, and the lower field is going great. The upper field, as so often happens, subsurface conditions got us. When they go to scrape everything back and then put in the substrate they need to put in, they found something. This is what it's supposed to look like. That's the one that's going well. Okay, and this is what that upper fields look like now. Looks like now it's in a high-speed stall because they found a big void in the ground and an awful lot of rock. The rock causes a problem, but the void caused us a really big problem because you've got to grout that thing and get it totally sealed up before you put something very expensive on top of it. And so it's been a challenge for us. They're out there still working on it now, and we don't have a revised date on when it's going to be opened up, but we're hoping maybe the end of September that we can have this project completed. This is the report that we got. So you got to go out and get some fancy engineers to give you a report that kind of shows you, you can imagine how much that costs to do ground penetrating radar across that area of the field. And they give you kind of a profile view. And then what I thought was funny is, that's very sophisticated chart work right there about what it looks like underground. And then what they wind up with in a recommendation is this. That was like from 1985, right? It's the same one they've been, but that is just the way you fix these things. You fill them full of grout, rock, and you put some filter, geotextile filter fabric over it. And, but you have to do it carefully. So they're out there doing that right now. You may have seen on the news, the Brentvale cabin at Crockett Park. It's a 200-year-old structure that Brentwood has been very blessed to have had donated to us back 30 years ago. And unfortunately, we recognized that the cabin was having some problems and the log timbers were deteriorating. So we got some experts to come in and look at it. And they said, there was deterioration, obviously, when you built this thing, but there were some things maybe that were done when it was all kind of put together, maybe could have been a little different, but nonetheless, the log timbers really have greatly deteriorated. You really can't save the structure. And so we had to get a company on board. And actually this company is the foremost log cabin expert in Tennessee, and that's Leatherwood Incorporated. We've worked with them before. So they went about the process. City Commission approved it. Historic Commission agreed. This is what we got to do. Let's disassemble this and rebuild a structure. But let's save as many of the timbers as we can. And so this gentleman who's up on the ladder, he's tagging the logs and then mapping them so he knows exactly where everything is. So those that are reusable will go back in the location that they came from. Some of the chinking has been taken off. So you can see that there's what looks like incredible deterioration. That is what was behind that section of chinking. This is when they were getting a little further into the demolition. The back restroom building is taken off the back now. A little closer look at that chinking that was removed. And so this is the top third of the building to half of the building already removed. So I brought in a crane and they started disassembling this, not demolishing, but disassembling it. And then this is what it looks like now. We had saved the floor for the last because we're hoping that the floor could be at least usable as a subfloor for the new building because we kind of want to put something back in that footprint. Keeping the chimneys. Chimneys are still good. No, they're not going to blow over. The chimneys were holding up the structure. The structure wasn't holding up the chimneys. So that's what it looks like now. And those timbers, let's see if I put a picture of that in here. These are the timbers all tagged. And okay, I don't have one, but nearby we've got a barn behind the Cool Springs house and we've been able to store them out of the weather. Perfect location and it's very nearby. So they will stay there until we build a new structure, which the Historic Commission has told us, go forth and do that. City Commission has already appropriated $350,000 for this whole project. We're going to move into design and hopefully get this thing rebuilt. All right. So this is this project has brought out some people who actually used to live in the house. And so this gentleman's, his grandfather lived in the home and as did his father. And he said, hey, let me send you a couple of photos. And this was the blizzard of 1951. And this is obviously when Brentville was over near Old Smyrna Road. I realized the Gallon family owned this structure. And then Barbara and Roger Mick owned it. And they actually facilitated the transfer to the city of Brentwood when it was relocated to Crockett Park. And this is William Allen and his son Wyatt, circa 1950. And that's Wyatt perched atop the horse. And so we're hoping that the Gatlins also are going to be bequeathing to us some photos that we can actually showcase when the new structure is built. Windy Hill Park. Hopefully you've heard about this great development. This is going to be Brentwood's newest park. And it's over just south of Old Smyrna Road and the Annandale subdivision. Kind of gives you an idea of the general location there, the green box. And it's going to serve an area that currently doesn't have a park of that nature. You got to travel a little distance to get to one of Brentwood's parks. And so we were kind of looking for a long time for one of those properties to come available. And it did. Very glad that we were able to negotiate a transfer to the city because 1,900 homes kind of right in that area that would be serviced by this park. Gives you an idea of the layout right there. And then this is just an early conceptual layout. We want it to be a passive park. So you're not going to see ball fields and that kind of thing, but you will see pedestrian trails. We've been out asking the community, in addition to pedestrian trails, parking and maybe some picnic facilities, that kind of thing. What else do you want to see in this park? Again, it can't be active recreation, it can be passive. So we've been undergoing a process of community meetings and have had 3 of them so far. We'll be having another one coming up August 15th at the Brentwood Library. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. and that's citywide. So anybody who hasn't had an opportunity to give us input yet, please come out and let us know what you'd like to see there. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a couple, just the natural beauty of that property is just fantastic. And that's one of the public input meetings that we had. Wastewater equalization. Sounds like a barrel of monkeys, doesn't it? Hey, glad Jay's talking about that. It's actually a big deal. It really is. Some of you who live in Brentwood or in the surrounding area may have gotten a flyer. It's a campaign flyer went out that talked recently about somebody had gotten a little tidbit that Brentwood actually dumps wastewater in the Little Harpeth River. Millions of gallons of it. Now that is bad, right? I mean, and the flyer looked terrible. And so of course the mayor were all scrambling that that's not the messaging because we work so hard on all this stuff and that for people who aren't paying attention, they don't have any context of what that means. And this is a big part of the solution to that. Every municipal wastewater system has overflows, all of them. I know that's a little disappointing to hear because 1 gallon going into a local water body is disappointing and none of us want that. Let's give an analogy to that. You could also say that 1 life lost on our nation's highways is 1 life too many. And we tried for 30 years to bring the speed limit down to 55 miles an hour. It started in 1965 and it ended in 1994. Did we suddenly decide that, well, we can expend a few people? No, we didn't, but we did realize that there is maybe a limit to what we can do. And with wastewater, there is a limit to what you can do because you simply can't afford to pay the sewer bill that it would take to have 0 effluent that eventually gets spilled. But you want to get it down as low as possible. And the city's been working on that for a long time. over the last 20 years, we have spent $30 million trying to stop I&I. That's inflow and infiltration. That's why you have the overflows. It's in wet weather, typically in the winter, when you get these deluges, and they seem to be becoming more and more frequent. Maybe global warming is doing that. But you have inflow from pipes that shouldn't be piped into your sewer system. It should be piped into the stormwater system. They get there either accidentally or illegally, but they get there. And then you also have holes and cracks and roots and things like that. And so groundwater gets in, it floods your sewer system, and it overwhelms your sewer system in a high rain event. And that's how you get these overflows, which we do want to prevent. And we've been working with the Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation. I guess you can click it for me if you would. There we go. Maybe if I point it that way and not this way. So this is an example of I&I. That's just water coming in one of the pipes during a rain event. And we have all kinds of sophisticated equipment that goes in and looks for the stuff. And we slip line pipes, we replace pipes. There's another part to the solution, which is to build an equalization tank at the lower end of the system, so that when you have these deluges, you actually have this huge tank that we are now constructing, a 4 million gallon tank that can fill up with that effluent, let the rain event pass. Hopefully you either avoid an event that would result in spillage, or you at least reduce it. And so this is under construction right now. That was taken just last week, and this is a 4 million gallon tank. The city is paying $9.3 million worth, or $9.3 million for, and $5 million, though, thankfully, is being paid for by ARPA. That's the grant program from the federal government to help us recover from COVID. It is a 4 million gallon pre-stressed concrete tank. And again, it's at the western part of the system, which is the lower part of our system, just before it goes off to Metro Nashville, who actually treat it. We will need a second tank, and it will be in the vicinity of where we are now, in the vicinity of Crockett Park. We haven't exactly identified, but here's kind of a big bubble area of where we're going to have to build another one of these things, all with the express intent of reducing those overflows. We have recovered over 1 million gallons just in the slip lining work and the manhole rehab work that we've done. We've recovered over 1 million gallons per day, which is part of our permit that will now not go into the Little Harpeth River. We're still working on it. And we do have a plan. Okay. Carondelet, water line, water main replacement. You know, aging infrastructure is such a big deal to local governments, and not going out and fixing those things and replacing those pipes when they age out causes a lot of problems, and you read about it all the time. Well, Carondelet is one of our older areas, and it gives us a lot of trouble. And so we're going into that community. Will it advance? Okay. There we go. And so you can see on this map, we've got a northern area and a northern area in red, a southern area in yellow. And so there's two phases this project is going to be divided into, and it's going to be a bit of a disruption for the folks that live in that rather large residential subdivision area. And all of the pipes are basically going to be replaced. And we're going to come right behind it, and on edge to edge, we're going to repave everything, so you're not going over bumps and things like that. That's a big project for us. It's $4.9 million. It's going to be done by Cunningham Construction, who the city has experience with. We've used them before. It's going to take about 2 years. 2 years from the notice to proceed, because they're still trying to line up all the pipe, which everybody's going out and buying pipe right now because of the ARPA funds. We're all struggling for the same materials that are in short supply, but it'll be about 2 years from the time that we give them the notice to proceed. Okay. Southeast Brentwood annexations, moving away from city projects and kind of going to what the private sector is out there doing. This is a little unique what's going on. It has been for the past couple of years, because Brentwood has not been in annexation mode in a number of years. And yet people have been coming to us and saying, listen, we've got this area in your urban growth boundary, and that's the area outside city limits, but you generally expect that eventually will come inside city limits. Every city in Williamson County has one. And they've been coming to us and saying, we'd really love to bring the property into Brentwood. We think there are advantages. So the area where the arrow is, of course, we're the red star here where we are now. And then the area, we're talking about the very extreme of Brentwood in the southeast corner is where these properties have been approaching the city. And the first one to come in let's see, it was this area here, then this area, and now these have come in and approached us, and now there's even one further to the south. So it's a lot of residential development that would have otherwise or will otherwise develop in the county. We're not facilitating development by doing this, but we are able to control it better because Brentwood has more stringent requirements on what you can do residentially than does the county. The zoning they're assigning to them is either R2 or OSRD, which is open space residential district, gives them some flexibility in what they can do. But the density will not increase at all by coming into the city limits, but we can control it better. Because either way, it's going to develop and we are going to feel the impacts of that development, whether it's on our parks or our library or our roads and transportation, we'll see the impacts of it. We want to get the tax revenue from it as well, if we're going to get the impacts, right? So the city commission has said, you know, this is not in our water and wastewater service areas. It's actually Metro and Nolensville, College Grove. So it's not impacting our utilities. Might as well bring it in. And so these votes to bring it in have been unanimous. And it's 625 acres totaling about 400 lots. But again, it would develop in the county if it didn't develop in Brentwood. And my timing has not been bad because we got 5 minutes left for questions. Over here.
Thank you for that. The report is excellent. The what is the thinking about the Turner property and the extension of Murray Lane to the interstate for another interstate intersect?
So you wouldn't have enough separation between the Concord Road interchange to get another interchange in there. So no, I don't think under any scenario you actually get an extension of Murray Lane over on, other than just to serve the Turner property were it to develop. And interestingly, Mr. Bednar was telling me he actually met with Mr. Turner here in the not too distant past. And Mr. Turner checks in with us from time to time to see if anything's changed in the city, if our thoughts about the property have changed. And he's in a go slow mode. He doesn't personally feel the pressure to do anything with the property, but he realizes that his heirs, when he passes, and I believe Mr. Turner's in his early 80s, that his heirs probably will do something different. And I think he'd like to see something happen where he can control it while he's alive. The question is going to be, what would that be? Would part of it go to the city of Brentwood? Would all of it go to the city of Brentwood? And what's Brentwood willing to pay for that? This question was asked many years ago. Some folks will remember that. And it actually was turned down at a referendum vote. Have those sentiments changed in the community in that time? Don't know. What would the numbers be? They'd be much higher than they were. So it would definitely eat up some debt capacity, but so we don't really know what's going to happen to that property. I can tell you, Mr. Turner is interested in the ultimate outcome and realizes that, well, his heirs may have different ideas than he has. So remains to be seen.
I actually have two questions. Will Wilson Pike ever be widened? And my second question, is there a reason why there's no live music inside of Brentwood?
No live music inside of
Yeah,
Brentwood?
like if you go to like Ludlow Prom, like live music, or kind of like where Del Frisco is at like the whole sitting area.
In our commercial areas.
Yes.
So honestly, I don't know that our regulations prohibit any outdoor live entertainment. I'd probably be surprised to know that we limit that or restrict it. We do have live entertainment at Smith Park when we have weddings and things like that. There's, yeah, but right, restaurants, I don't off the top, don't know that answer, but I can certainly find out for you to see if we've got something that would preclude any kind of outdoor entertainment in those areas. I don't know. It may be. It's simply that hasn't been their business model to do that.
Jay,
Okay.
Jay, two simple two
Yes,
easy
Larry.
questions. How big is Windy Hill Park?
Windy Hill Park, I believe, is 52 acres.
Where is the big water tower located? $4 million
gallon water tank?
Oh, it's actually south, and I didn't mention where the location was, did I? It's on the very west end, and it's out in the county, south of Christ Presbyterian Academy. So yeah, it's pretty far out.
You didn't get Julie's question on the widening of Wilson Pike.
Oh, thank you, Wilson Pike. Certainly Wilson Pike will be widened. Okay. In my lifetime, I don't know. Wilson Pike has an awful lot of challenges, and yes, we all have the same fear when we're driving down Wilson Pike because you have no shoulders and you have a ditch right there. It's a pretty treacherous section of road. It's a state road, and it's nowhere on the state's radar to widen. We do have it on our radar to try and facilitate maybe some safety improvements with which the city has been looking at, but it's a state road, and from the moment you started to consider widening Wilson Pike, you're 10 years down the road before it actually happens.
What are the plans for Smith Park?
Plans for Smith Park, thanks for asking. So we've got some mountain bike enthusiasts that have approached the city, and there's an area that on our master plan, we'd said maybe one day in the back part of the hilly part, not the flat area, but the back part of the park that would be good for mountain biking. And so they're working on a plan right now to do that. They've been talking to our engineering staff, they're fundraising, and I would think within a year or so, you should probably see some mountain bike trails in the southwest portion of the park. The northwest portion of the park, the back 80 acres, that's the more buildable area. So it's in the plan to ultimately have ball fields back there. But you've got some challenges getting back there and putting the road and building it back there. So the impetus isn't there yet to do that. We've put 25 or $30 million into the park, including acquisition and all the development we've done. We've put a lot into that area of town, and we've been starting to spread our resources like Wendy Park elsewhere for now.
Two quick questions. It seems like Franklin Road south of Concord's been going on forever.
Mhm.
When do you expect that to be complete? And then the second one is Old Hickory, right on that Nashville line from Franklin Road to Hillsborough Road. Whose jurisdiction is that to widen that?
It's Metro Nashville's.
Okay.
It's Metro Nashville.
And what about Franklin Road?
So Franklin Road, yes, it's the kind of the gift that keeps on giving, and realize it's not our project, it's TDOT's project. And it has gone on much longer than anybody wanted. But I would say in the beginning, we probably suspected, because it's a corridor that is jam full of utilities. I think it's going to be done within about 8 months, but don't quote me because it's not my project. Okay. I think we've hit our time. One more.
As someone who is still trapped in Davidson County, I will say I oftentimes come down to Williamson County, especially Brentwood. I love the parks down here. My son and I come down here, wonderful recreation opportunities. They're clean, they're nice. There's not a lot of beggars. It's very nice. And my question to you is, Crockett Park, as big as some of the events are that are held there, is there any possibility of them expanding the parking options there, or is there any way they could, because sometimes it's just hard to park on the 4th and so forth?
Yeah, so parking is a real challenge. And, we've talked about, should we try and bus, for the big events, whether it's Brentfest or the 4th of July, should we try and bus from other parking areas that are perhaps out and around at some of the churches? And we keep coming back to the answer, no, really, because the park reaches its capacity with people. And so it's kind of got as much packed in it as we can fit in it. And I think it's Good Shepherd. We're actually going to limit the parking over there because we have people kind of walking a path that's fairly dangerous during July 4th. Didn't have to do it at Brentfest, but that park's got as much program as it can handle. And we're talking about possibly maybe adding some tennis courts over there at one point. So it's a very full park when we have a big event, but I understand what you're saying. I think we've hit our time. All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity, everybody.
I know that Jay knows the drill as a member of this club, but for our guests, we give our speakers as a gift for visiting us a pen with the club's logo, and we ask them to sign a book about Rotary that we read to first graders. And when we read the book to the class, we tell them about the speaker who signed the book. So we'll ask Jay to sign the book for us. Thank you. Yep, you do that over there. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we are adjourned.